This is Jonathan Black and welcome to London in the United Kingdom. Just wanted to do a quick nugget here on a topic that is very complicated, it's very broad, it's very context dependent, but I know that it causes a lot of pain and a lot of grief for people as well. And that is how to let go of resentment, how to let go of that ongoing sense of bitterness and resentfulness about something that has happened to you or someone else in the past in some particular way. Now, we have all experienced resentment at different times in our lives, but I had a particular case that I came across a wee while ago of individuals that were simply carrying a tremendous amount of bitterness over an event. And it caused me to ask the question why they had held on to that for so long. And the event in particular was very traumatizing. It was something where information had been passed on, where the event was perceived and probably was in some way at least preventable, and that event caused a tremendous amount of pain in particular. And so when we think about resentment, we can feel resentment for a variety of reasons. I mean, fundamentally, of course, that resentment comes from a profound sense of unfairness. Something has happened in some particular way that has assaulted our sense of what is right in this world and the way things are supposed to work. That there is in some way some level of preventableness in terms of the event actually taking place. That the event or series of events has caused us directly some level of pain or harm, or those we care about deeply some level of significant pain or harm, and therefore we have taken that on board and absorbed that in some way out of sympathy and support for those individuals. And for most of us, that resentment to a certain degree decays over time with explanation or with contact. But what happens when that resentment builds up, and it builds up over a period of time, that it becomes, for some of us, a very dark shadow that hangs over our heads. Big issue, and it's not one that I can cover in a small video, but certainly it's something that I want to give some tips on that helps us move forward and make progress, and that if it doesn't ease that resentment, then it helps us take those steps towards easing that resentment sooner rather than later in some particular way. And when I think about some initial steps to take, one of the key things I would ask someone who is feeling that kind of bitterness and that deep-seated resentment is to ask, what do they want? What actually do they want, and what do they believe they need that will actually in some way resolve that or make that resentment go away? Now that seems like a really simple question, but actually it's a really important one. And I found that a lot of people who are in that deep-seated sense of bitterness have not asked themselves that question because they're so emotionally involved and engaged and entrenched in whatever has taken place that they've lost the ability to rationalise. And the ability of a friend or a counsellor or a manager or a colleague to sit down and ask someone, what is it that they believe needs to happen, that needs to be done, that they need to hear, that they need to see, that will resolve or help that resentment go away, is a really important question, because I find that many people haven't even asked themselves that question. And it really gets them thinking, and thinking of course is a first step. The second one is, what conversations do they need to have? Do they need to say something to me or to someone else, the individual that they believe has created that resentment, who's the architect of that pain? Do they need to tell them? Because if they don't tell them, then nothing is going to happen. Do they need to articulate where they happen to be at? Do they need to explain why they react to things in certain ways? Being able to express what kind of conversations I need to have starts people thinking and planning about the release. And of course, once we start saying things, we help articulate things in our own mind as to what happens to be going on. So we're helping to manage emotion, not remove emotion, but manage emotion and help to rationalise and start work us through that path. The third step in moving on from resentment is actually to look at ourselves and ask, why is it that I am holding on to this and somebody else is not? Or why is it that I am holding on to this in my way, with my journey, but a colleague or a friend or a family member is experiencing it differently? What is it about me that is becoming a plague, that is being an obstacle? Is it something about my sense of psychological contract, my sense of fairness? Is it something about my expectations or my values? Whatever it happens to be, we need to acknowledge that and have a conversation with that about ourselves or with others that can help us move forward in some particular way. So those are 3 simple steps to start the process of moving on from resentment, no matter what causes it. Really, really important issue. I know it causes a lot of pain for people, and for those listening, I hope that they are useful tips that help give people some strategies to help them on the path of healing and of recovery as well. Thanks very much for listening.